I can't tell you if the use of force in Iraq today will last 5 days, 5 weeks or 5 months, but it won't last any longer than that. It won't be a World War III. Donald H. Rumsfeld, former U.S. Secretary of Defense.
Welcome back to this special Inside Iraq from the heart of the Middle East, Cairo, about the 5th anniversary of the invasion of Iraq. I'm delighted now to welcome Iraqi Foreign Minister Hoshyar Zebari, who joins us now. Mr. Zebari, given the low-intensity civil war that is going on, the corruption, what is going on in Iraq, Iraq has a semblance of democracy, elections, vocal media, parliament. Having said that, is this a system Iraqis they can build on and develop, or this is simply a house of cards? It could collapse at any minute.
No, definitely it's not a house of cards, Jassim. And this is a system in transition. Still, it has not been established. We succeeded in establishing the constitutional framework to identify the constitution, to have an accountable government, to have a number of bodies that deal with public integrity and to fight corruption. But this is a system in transition. Really, it hasn't landed because of the terrorism, because of the violence, because of the foreign intervention. But we are making headway, we are making progress.
If that is the case, Hoshyar Zebari, how do you explain that almost 4 million Iraqis, they have fled the country and corruption is rife? Even the Prime Minister al-Maliki says corruption has become perhaps the second insurgency.
There is corruption. I'm not denying that there isn't, Jassim, at all, at different levels. But also there is the will, there is the policy, you see, to fight corruption. And we have established a number of bodies, you see, to fight this evil. It is dangerous, it is threatening the system, but also there are actions also to do that.
Now I would like to take a few questions from our audience. We have the young lady there, Riham, I think you have a question. Go ahead, please.
My name is Riham Mursi. I'm from the American University in Cairo. I would like to ask, one of the goals of the invasion of Iraq was to build democracy. You as an American, would you be willing to swap your democracy for Iraq's democracy? Thank you.
Democracy is unique to each country that it's in. I don't think there's any country in the world would want our version of democracy in their country. I know our British friends would not want to swap one for one because it has to do with our culture and it has to be appropriate. Iraq is developing its own institutions of democracy that's reflective of their history and their culture and its people.
Hassan Isa, right now the Iraqi government as well as the US government are in a long-term negotiation for a long-term bilateral relations, diplomatically, culturally, and perhaps militarily. Eventually, it might lead to the presence of prolonged US troops in Iraq. As an Arab and as a diplomat, would you say that will contribute to the stability of Iraq, or will that be a magnet for Al-Qaeda and terrorists to say, the Americans are in this part of the world, they are the new colonial powers, let's go and get them?
Yeah. First, when they talk about pull out troops, and I don't believe that this happened. They said we're pulling out 2,000 troops, moving them out of Iraq, but apparently they disappeared. Nobody knows where they went inside Iraq, number one. Two, already there is a military base they're talking about building in Baghdad in the Green Zone with a huge American embassy that they label the largest American embassy in the world. Third, 4 new bases are being built in the 4 corners of Iraq. One facing Syria, one facing Russia, one facing Iran, one facing the Gulf area for protecting the oil in the south. So, 5th or 4th or 5th, President Bush was talking about pulling out the troops in the next few months or in the next year. Then he was talking about 10 years, a decade. He was talking about 10 years from now, we'll be pulling out of Iraq. So actually, I do not believe that the American troops are going to be pulled out of Iraq. The United States is not going to be out of Iraq in view of the bases that they're building, in view of the statements of the president, in view of the fact that they want the oil, in view of the fact that they want to be near Iran and in the area.
Hoshyar Zebari, when you hear such a statement from a veteran Egyptian diplomat, basically this is a projection of American power to be in the region, perhaps for later phases. How do you respond to that?
Well, I respect his views, but we are negotiating this long-term security agreement. And we've just started, actually. It's been just 2 weeks, and we are in the initial stages. The American presence here in Iraq will not be open-ended. This is first. Secondly, whatever presence or arrangements the Iraqi government is going to make for its own need, it will not be a threat to Iran, Turkey, or the Gulf, as your speaker said. In fact, their stay here would be regulated, will be organized. It would be with the consent of the Iraqi government. And we have here a goal to remove our country under Chapter 7 of the UN Charter that has been sanctioned.
Hashar Zebari, if it isn't for power projection beyond the borders of Iraq, will it be for internal repression?
Why it should be used for repression? Why it should not be used to enhance the capabilities of the Iraqi state, of the Iraqi security forces? And this is not a new thing we are introducing. Many countries in the Gulf region, including Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, some other countries, they have similar arrangements with the United States.
Hisham Yusuf, this argument presented by the Iraqi government over the past 5 years, we are no different than the Saudis and the Emiratis and others. They have bases, they have bilateral long-term agreements. So what makes Iraq different? Why can't Iraqis have long-term US presence in the region?
Well, the difference is that the United States came to invade Iraq, and it was an occupying force in accordance to Security Council resolutions. So there is a fundamental difference between the manner in which there is cooperation in a number of Arab countries with the US Army as compared to the situation in Iraq. Not that this is something that is absolutely flawed in the first place, but there are also those voices in Iraq that are arguing that any agreement of such nature should not be negotiated while there is presence. But this is up to the Iraqis to discuss and reach consensus.
Quick response from Larry Butler and Dominic Asquith.
One with all due deference to one of the most distinguished diplomats in the Middle East, Hassan Issa, I almost think that today must be April 1st, because I heard 5 things that just simply aren't true. First off, 5,000 U.S. troops recently arrived home in Texas. The president went out to meet them. If you wanted to find out where they went, you just had to go there. Second, we are not building 4 bases. And the last time I looked, Russia is not on the border with Iraq anywhere. So I'm not sure. Whatever. We're not building 4 new bases. And there is no giant U.S. base being built inside the Green Zone. There is a large American embassy compound which has housing and everything else required for it. And that's a reality because it's our statement that we want to be there diplomatically and have a normalized relationship just as we have with Saudi Arabia, as we have with Kuwait, as we have with many other countries around the world. And it's not a long-term presence.
I mean, I think the listeners should listen carefully to what Hashar Zebari said. The coalition forces are there with a UN mandate out of a resolution and at the request of the Iraqi government. And there are nearly 30 countries participating in the coalition forces in Iraq. This is not a single force. But the key bit that Hashar was talking about is that the relationship is being negotiated and discussed by the Iraqi government with the coalition allies. They are there to support and to carry out their commitments and their responsibilities.
Hashar Zebari, many people think this is a diktat, this is a fait accompli. The Iraqi government right now needs the military bases, needs the American troops, and that's why they are agreeing to it.
No, there is an Iraqi need, Jassim. Still, our security readiness capabilities have not reached the level that our forces would be self-reliant. Our borders are open. Still, our forces are in the process of taking shape. And we've seen with recent confrontation with outlaws, militias in Basra and Baghdad, that still there is a lot of work to be done. And there is a need for continued support by the American, by the coalition, by the British, by those countries who are helping us to reach that level. But in the interim, we are negotiating to organize this relation, to, in fact, to help ourselves on the one hand, and also to help our allies also, that their troops will not stay here forever. They will start to withdraw. I think the moment the situation is conducive to that. Had it not been to this continuous terrorist attacks and this unholy war by the militias, I mean, many of them would have left. The British is a case in point.
Hashar Zibari, the central question is on the mind of many. U.S. presence troops in Iraq, would that exasperate the insurgency as well as energize the resistance?
Well, I think many forces of the resistance now of the Sahwa, the awakening, are working with the Americans in many parts of the country. So this correlation is not correct, actually. Many components of the Iraqi society, all those who were in the opposition, are looking upon the American forces as an arbiter of the internal violence. So this is a positive thing in my view.
Hashar Zibari, we'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll take more questions from our audience. Stay with us.
I don't ask to have 100,000 American soldiers. 10,000 soldiers and 2 air bases would be enough. This will be in the interest of the Iraqi people and of peace in the Middle East. Jalal Talabani, Iraqi president.